Hello and welcome to another episode of Financial Deep Dive with CWT. My name is Caleb Tanner. I own finance by CWT.com, which is a website all about investing, the stock market, crypto, all that kind of stuff. And I encourage each and every one of you to go to financebycwt.com to see tons of information all about the stock market. But in today's episode, I want to talk about Netflix. And is Netflix a buy right now? I'm sure everyone knows this by now, but Netflix recently had a pretty bad earnings report. And that led to the stock absolutely crashing. It went down around 38% in one day, which is absolutely crazy. Like a drop that significant from a company as big as Netflix is just absolutely insane to think about. But it's something that I'm not going to say I predicted it. I did not predict, the bad earnings call happening. I didn't predict the stock crashing that much. But I did recently publish an article, actually a few months ago, talking about Netflix stock versus Disney stock. And I viewed a lot of concerns on why I personally would not buy Netflix stock. And with that and this happening, I feel like it showed evident a lot of the things that I was talking about. But right now, Netflix with the crash has a much different valuation than when I was looking at the stock. And I do want to talk about Netflix at the price that it is now. Is it actually a good buy? And first, I want to talk about some of the criticisms I had about Netflix and basically talk about if I still have them. Do I still think the way that, I thought then? And one of my main problems with Netflix, as a stock anyway, is the competition right now. Netflix, it was worth more than Disney. It was, even though Netflix is just streaming, it's not a market cap bigger than Disney's, which I always thought was absolutely crazy. But, now obviously they do not. But it didn't make sense to me how Netflix, who is dominant in streaming, could consistently keep their growth up with Disney out and entering streaming, Paramount entering streaming, NBC entering streaming, Warner Brothers entering streaming. It's with every single, basically, they are who gives Netflix their content. Netflix basically pays all those companies for the content they have to put it on Netflix. And with all that content now leaving Netflix, it makes Netflix less valuable. And with all that content going to the other services, it makes the other services more valuable. And with all these new services now in the market that have increased their value, and Netflix is decreasing in value, it makes sense that the stock would also decrease in value. It just makes sense. With some of Netflix's most popular content was the content owned by NBC, which is now on Peacock, or owned by Disney, which is now on Disney Plus. And with their most popular content leaving, going to other platforms, every single time a TV show goes to another platform, even if it's a small amount, a certain amount of fans follow. And one thing that I thought was good for Netflix was that it seemed at least right now, if, let's say, The Office, for instance, went to Peacock, it didn't seem like The Office fans were canceling their Netflix. They were just also buying Peacock. And then suddenly, everyone just had a tremendous amount of streaming services, which is something that I thought was very interesting because I thought it'd be the opposite, where they cancel Netflix, then go to Peacock. But it still shows true that a lot would be going to the other streamings, and that Netflix would have decreasing numbers because of that. And as they go into new areas, because one reason Netflix has always been so dominant is that when new areas get access to Netflix, they join it. But now they're getting access to Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus. All these different areas are getting access to all these different streaming services. And while people that currently have Netflix might not cancel their Netflix to join Peacock, those in other areas who just got the option for two of them might join Peacock over Netflix. It seems like the most obvious conclusion in the world that if you have something with no competition and it suddenly has a lot of competition, that the thing would decrease in value. And it seems like it has gone that way. It doesn't seem like Netflix has really known how to deal with that or pivot. Because, and I will give them credit that they've tried. They've talked about going to like gaming and stuff like that. And I think that could do well. I don't really see it myself. Like, I don't see that many gamers going to Netflix. And I could be completely wrong on that, but for me to like invest in Netflix stock, I have to see it myself, or at least get some kind of reason to believe that that could happen. And even right now, with the huge decrease in market price or market cap that Netflix currently has, I'm still much longer on Disney than I am Netflix. I'm even longer on like Paramount than I am Netflix. And I'm not saying that I think Paramount will be as big as Netflix is. I just think Netflix will probably, and I think it's most likely that they will keep decreasing in the amount of people that are choosing Netflix. Like, I almost feel like, and I'm not saying they have now, but I feel like they're coming to the point where they've peaked in the amount of people on the platform and will be slowly decreasing from there. Still have a lot of people on it, but slowly decreasing from there as they go to other services that have the content that they want. Netflix's original content, some of it's gone over very well, like Tiger King, Stranger Things, things like that, but most of it has not gone well at all. Like, they're not able to get their, basically, users to watch the stuff they make themselves. And if they can't do that, and they can't keep other companies' content on the platform, then what is left? And even with this 38% fall, Netflix has, to get more revenue, said that they're thinking about basically doing like an ad-supported tie or putting ads on Netflix. And while personally, I love ads. Like, ad-first media companies, I absolutely love them. Financed by CWT, I want to be an ad-first media company. But when your entire business has catered to the people who dislike ads, and it's catered to that audience, and that's the audience that is paying you, and then you put ads on it, to me, that is going to be a huge problem. Like, a lot of people on Netflix join Netflix because they don't want to deal with ads. They could watch the content like on a lot of other places, but they don't want to deal with ads, basically. But by putting ads on it, suddenly they're not happy with Netflix. And they're going to be looking for other services. That's the thing. Like, if you use Netflix and then suddenly they start doing something that you cannot stand, you might go start looking at the competition at that point. And I will say that one of the reasons Netflix, lost users instead of gaining them was because, they're no longer doing like business with Russia. And, that is true. And that's something that I feel like the market did overreact a little bit, because I feel like most people didn't realize that a big reason they fell is because of that reason, which, a lot of people are supporting them and doing that and then selling their shares because of it. But I don't know. To me, this just seemed like something that was going to be happening for a while. Like, I don't see how Netflix can compete with all the competition right now. And I don't see how Netflix can keep growing users, at least as rapidly as they were before, with the option to join so many other services now. And also, if their content itself, if they can't figure out how to make content, like a lot of content that people really like, and if they lose the right to show other people's content as more and more companies get into streaming, to me, it is glaringly obvious that there's a huge problem with that. And yeah, I wouldn't personally, and I'm not going to tell anyone how to invest, but I wouldn't buy Netflix stock right now. And maybe it ends up performing like extremely well in the short term. I do think that's possible and even likely. But I don't see how Netflix can continue to be as big as they are long term. Like, to me, that just doesn't really, it doesn't make sense with reality. But that's just my opinion on it. Like, I personally wouldn't touch Netflix stock. But what I would do is subscribe to Finance by CWT. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast episode of this, subscribe to the whatever podcast platform you're currently listening to. And I will see you soon. Thank you for watching.